Yes.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are Green Wisdom Health, home of your low-cost lab work and educational information. Today, going to educate you a little bit about detoxifying your liver. I know you guys are all working on diets out there and trying to get in shape and exercising, probably join the new gym, trying to eat paleo or keto, but we need to detoxify some organs as well. So Dr. Lewis is going to talk to us a little bit today about why we need to detoxify our liver and what our liver does and why if it ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So would you tell us why we need to be thinking about our livers?
Well, I talk about a toxic society and, how we have so many pesticides and plastics and things like that. Well, your body has to detoxify these things, and the liver has a very large role in that. It's the largest organ in the body, weighs, some people say about 4 pounds, and it's very adaptable. It can actually regenerate itself up to, if 75% or so of it's gone. Most of the time, the medical doctors can take out 50% or more of the liver, and actually you can live a healthy life after that because the liver does grow back. And let me get gross right off the bat. I think it's really good that you eat liver because I'm a big fan of organ meats, but I think it's better if you get the organic chicken livers or calf livers, the ones that are raised organically, that are cleaner and at least have not had time to bioaccumulate all the toxins associated with that. One of the biggest toxins for the liver is alcohol, and it doesn't handle it real well. Acetaminophen is one. Tylenol is horrible for the liver, and there's been many, many cases of liver failure just because people were taking the acetaminophen.
I'd like to address that a little bit because I have a question about that.
Okay.
We have many patients that tell us they have to take a couple of acetaminophen before they can sleep at night. Could you answer why they have to have that to sleep?
Well, it interferes with some of the enzymes that have to do with inflammation, and sleep is pretty... We hear that commonly, that people don't sleep real well, and it's really funny. The liver, if they say, well, it's between 1 and 3 a.m., it's like, well, that's the liver meridian when the body's trying to heal the liver, and we know the liver needs to be detoxified, although we do love to see that on lab so that we know for sure. Some people will try one or two things and it doesn't make them sleep. Well, we have many, many different things that we can use for sleep, and some experts, and experts just somebody that's written a blog or an article or a newsletter or a book. Some people say that it's just toxins in your body's why you can't sleep anyway, and that's why that's a good segue into the liver. Want to do a quick shout out to Richard. Richard was missing our podcast. He was out in California, and I hope this keeps you happy and entertained for Richard and his wife Rebecca. The liver's probably one of its most important things that it does is to secrete bile. And that's why Janet and I talk about, we have a couple of different digestive enzymes that has ox bile in it, so it takes some of the stress off the liver and does a major job to help digest and detoxify. This is stored, the bile stored in the gallbladder, and I just got a call from Chicago. A guy was talking about his sister-in-law and may have to have her gallbladder out because it's full of stones. Well, and she was going to quit keto even though it made her lose weight, have more energy, have more mental clarity. And it's like, well, there's people that are eating fat, people eating too many carbs, too much sugar that have gallbladder problems too. It's usually, it's not the fault of the keto diet. Yeah, I think it's more a fault of the fructose and the carbohydrates. But normally a gallstone is undigested cholesterol, and that's why digestive enzymes and keeping your liver clean is just absolutely critical. So bile is necessary for the digestion of fats, and it breaks down fats quite effectively, but you have to be careful and make sure you have good digestion when you make any of these changes, like going on the keto diet, and I'm a big fan of that. Bile also assists in the absorption of all the fat-soluble vitamins. That would be A, D, E, and K, which has a lot to influence on absorbing calcium. You want to make sure you don't get too much vitamin A, but that's where the conversion is from beta-carotene into vitamin A. And it has a lot to do with whether you're constipated or not. So if your liver's working correctly, many people have a tendency to, their constipation seems to go away. Another thing that I try to tell people is that the liver's absolutely incredibly important in conjugating some of these bad things that we talk about that acts like estrogen. And it has to do with a lot of chemistry that I don't understand the great, glorious depths of. But when the liver excretes these conjugated or these estrogen-type molecules, it squishes it through the bile into the small intestine. If you don't have enough of the right probiotics, which takes a pretty serious effort, and you don't have good bowel movements, the bad bacteria actually takes the estrogen, the safer estrogen molecules, and twist it back into the unsafe ones, and then it is reabsorbed into the small intestine or through the walls, and those are the ones that have a major contributing factor to breast cancer, ovarian, uterine, testicular, and prostate cancer. So again, it goes back to proper liver function, proper bile function, proper probiotics, proper elimination. Janet's famous for saying, well, 3 trains in the meals and should be 2 or 3 trains out. And that's very, very true. Oh, sorry, a little interruption.
Sounded like gas. There are some signs and symptoms your liver are not functioning optimally. That your liver isn't functioning optimally. So if you've noticed any of these symptoms, you could be suffering from impaired liver function. Bloating and gas. Like Dr. Lewis said, we always use digestive enzymes because that really helps with that. And if you're wondering what that is, that's something like we recommend orthodigestizyme or Panplex because those are both really great ones. Constipation, like he said. Skin and or eyes that are yellowish.
Yeah, it's pretty serious if you get the jaundice.
Yeah, because that means you're like real toxic, right? Like
Yep.
It's up in your eyes. You can't lose weight. High blood pressure is actually a sign of a liver impairment, possibly.
Quite often, that's a big part of the equation, I think.
Moodiness, anxiety, or depression.
I would like to throw anger in there. Have you ever seen anybody at a party that has one drink and they get angry and they're stupid or angry drunk? Those are people with impaired liver function.
How interesting. Dark urine. That's odd that you would associate dark urine with a liver problem. People usually think that's a urinary tract problem or bladder problem. Rosacea, actually, is a liver issue. Chronic fatigue. So maybe your tiredness is coming because you're toxic and you keep having things like coffee and stuff that's making your liver angry.
Well, let me make a comment about that. I had a sweet young lady come in yesterday, and she said, but I'm just not feeling better. I don't have any energy. I said, tell me about your diet. She said, I just eat crap food.
How does that work? It's like you swallow the bad food and you expect it to turn into fruits and vegetables in your stomach, and it goes, oh, hey, look, I know you meant well. Let me just fix it for you.
Supplements make a big difference in your life, but it really does make a even bigger difference if you eat good fruits and vegetables. It's like she admits she eats horrible, and she's a sweet young lady, but God, you got to get realistic. There's no magic to it. It takes a little work, takes time.
Oh, kind of like working out. It's like you can't just work out once and have the perfect Greek god body.
That's really, really good, because I had planned on writing a podcast about consistency, and that was one of them. You can go work out one time, and you come home and look at the mirror. You don't look any different. You can eat one good meal and come home. It's like you don't look and feel any different. You can brush your teeth once. It's consistency, folks, and it's that way about marriage. You have to consistently put little things in and show your spouse you love them in different ways, and maybe even read a book to find out what their love language is. But it's consistency. It's not like, oh my God, I'm head over heels with this person, but it's like, oh, well, they're consistently nice to me. They consistently take care of me this way. It's consistency, and that's the way you get healthy, is consistency. Oh, I'm going off on a rabbit trail, Richard.
Down the hole. Actually, excessive sweating can be a liver issue because you're not getting rid of toxins. So
the body's trying to sweat it out.
Bruising easily. Isn't that interesting? And poor appetite. Huh.
I thought that was excessive appetite, but okay.
I guess you'd have poor appetite if you weren't eliminating properly. It's like you're not hungry because things aren't coming through.
Yeah, that's usually when it gets really bad.
So I always take something called lipotropic detox, because it has different liver cleansers in there. And if you do any of these bad things Dr. Lewis is talking about, it does help detoxify and clean things out. And if you take a couple of them before you go to bed at night, you may notice that you don't need acetaminophen to sleep, because your liver now has something to work with. Because basically when you're taking the over-the-counter, Advil, Tylenol, that kind of thing, you're just
Benadryl.
Benadryl. Yeah, you're just making your liver angrier. It's like, well, you may be sleeping, but you are making yourself really toxic. So that
alcohol works that way too.
Yeah, that's true. It does.
Not put you down, but it usually wakes you up. So
between 1 and 3.
Acetaminophen, that's a good point. When you go to the hospital with acetaminophen or Tylenol overdose, they give you something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. So that's one of the things that's very, very important for liver function. I want to tell you a little bit about it. There's cysteine and cysteine that are spelled differently. Cysteine with a C-Y-S-T-E-I-N-E is pretty unstable, and it's very easily converted to cysteine, which is C-Y-S-T-I-N-E. Both of them are very, very important, and they're not, I'm trying to talk about liver, but it's very important in skin health and collagen formation, but it's incredibly important in detoxification. So that's what you're given with a Tylenol or acetaminophen overdose, is N-acetylcysteine, and that is incredibly important in creating glutathione. And we do have some straight glutathione, which works wonders, but this NAC is a wonderful thing to take. And since the cysteine is a precursor to the glutathione, the glutathione binds with the harmful or potentially harmful substances. It protects your liver and it protects your brain from damage due to alcohol, drugs, and different toxic compounds like exhaust fumes and cigarette smoke. So it's pretty important. We even have NAC in the RV, so that if we get around, a smoky area, we make sure we take a lot of NAC when we go to bed.
Plus, it's good at thinning mucus, so you can
big time,
so that you can expel it, because everybody's still got this coughing stuff they've got going on from the flu or whatever. A lot of bronchitis out there, and it's like you just can't get it up. the NAC actually helps thin it so that you can expel it. And we also have it in a product called Sinotrol that for people that are really congested. I gave it to a lady yesterday. We have little bitty packages of it that you can buy. They're like $9 or something like that. And she goes, I can't breathe. And she goes, I'm just really congested. I said, okay. I said, well, get this little package. I said, go take like 2 or 3 of them and then let me know what happens. And she came in here yesterday and she said, that stuff is wonderful.
Now, we're talking a professional singer.
Yeah, she said, I went and got some food. I taken a couple of them. And she said, next thing I know, it's like everything that was stuck in my head came flying out everywhere. And she said I could breathe. And she said, that stuff is magic. So that the big thing in it is NAC that Dr. Lewis is talking about.
Yeah, that's very incredibly important. So Janet kind of beat me to the punch about the bronchitis and emphysema and COPD and things like that.
I'm good at that.
Yeah, she's smart like that. But diabetics should be careful about taking that because it kind of interferes with insulin. So
NAC does?
Yeah, you kind of have to watch that, and that's where we come in. We watch things like that, and that's why we do the inexpensive lab work.
Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about that because a lot of people don't even realize they have a liver problem until we tell them on lab. And many times they've gone to their doctor and had their what's called a metabolic panel run, and no one's even mentioned to them that they've got a liver problem. And that's because when we're looking at the lab values, we're looking for where the numbers are optimal. So if they're not flagged in that huge range that's off over on the far right side, it goes as it's fine. But many people, we're looking for somewhere, if you want to get your labs out and look at the ALT and AST, they need to be about, 16 to 17. It's pretty good on the lab. But a lot of them have them in their 30s. Well, that tells us that they're real toxic, that their liver's having a real difficult time in trying to break down everything. They may not be able to lose weight. They may have a lot of allergies. They may have a bigger stomach because that's kind of where it's all stored. But if you don't know what your liver enzymes are, you might consider getting our comprehensive lab panel. It is available across the United States, not just here in Texas. And
just talk to a guy in Delaware.
And basically you can go to your local Quest diagnostic location after you've purchased the lab online through our website and carry the order in, and they draw it for you, and then Dr. Lewis looks at it, and he gives you a very thorough explanation of everything happening on your lab. So there's no reason to not know what's wrong. Yeah. I mean, there could be so many different things, liver being one of them. Digestion, we can see, well, are you breaking your foods down? Are you going to the bathroom like you're supposed to? Because we have people that try to fool us, and they're like, well, I don't fill out a health survey. I just want you to tell me if you can see what's wrong. And we generally tell them more on their lab what's wrong than they ever even ask for. So they're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Or they'll say, oh my God, you've been reading my mail.
Yes, because we can see patterns in the lab. But that comprehensive lab panel is 12 different lab panels, and generally you get 1 to 3 at your doctor's office. But we don't do insurance on it, and that's why it's so inexpensive, because we don't want to guess. It's like the more pictures of the puzzle pieces we have, the better we can tell what's happening with your health. So, there's no need to go through all of this and feel bad. Try to get this done. It's the first of the year. Start having a life worth living this year.
God, she beat me to it because I like that term, life worth living. Other things that's important in liver detoxification is the amino acid methionine. It assist in the breakdown of fats, which think cholesterol and gallstones. Think about that. And then, one of the ones that we don't talk about a lot, but we tend to sell a lot of it, is taurine. Taurine also is very important. It's found in high concentrations in heart muscle, white blood cells, central nervous system. But when you're low in taurine, you think there's a more of a tendency to have anxiety, epilepsy, hyperactivity in kids, poor brain function, and seizures. So it's one of the things that you can stir up in your kid's meal and usually get some pretty good results with that. And it's also related to intestinal problems and an overgrowth of candida or yeast. Well, intestinal problems goes right back to what's your liver doing. And then you hear about milk thistle, and it's very good, and there's a lot of different grades out there, some of them much more effective than others. It protects your liver from the toxins and pollutants, and it kind of prevents the free radical damage, stimulates the production of new liver cells. So milk thistle's always a good idea. And Janet was talking about why people take different things to sleep. It messes with some of the enzymes. It's usually the COX-2 formation. And milk thistle has also been shown to have some anti-cancer effects against prostate cancer, breast cancer. So, that's a good thing. It's also another name for it's wild artichoke. So that's a good thing. So liver's incredibly, incredibly important, and we take things every day to help our liver detox.
What about loading up on raw vegetable juice? Is that a great thing to detoxify?
Yeah, if you're close to the toilet, it can be a good thing. I'm a big fan of throwing some of the fiber back in and not just doing the juice. But yes, and make sure it's organic so you're not getting the pesticides with it.
We've done the celery in the past. It's different.
Well, a little tangy. I like to throw a little apple in there with it to sweeten it up somewhat. But yeah, that's a good thing. They make some pretty inexpensive and very effective juicers that are easy to clean. For me, that's a big factor. But yeah, I think that's always a good thing.
And actually, potassium-rich foods are very good for your liver, like sweet potatoes. Now, they're all going to get excited and think we're talking about fries and all that stuff. But an occasional sweet potato is good.
If you need to lose weight, sweet potatoes aren't great, but they grow a lot of sweet potatoes and yams here in East Texas, so I feel obligated to support the farmers. And they're really good. We load them up with good butter, good fats, and you can put coconut oil on them too. And my sweet little daughter Shiloh just made me a sweet potato pie. It's not very sweet, but she doesn't sugar her daddy up too much, but she does sweet talk me a lot. So
I've been helping him eat that because I thought, well, it's just sweet potato. But that we've had it like 2 nights in a row, and every night we're having it, we're sleeping a little bit less than the night before. I said the pie's got to go. No more pie.
Yeah, we don't really eat that much.
Tomato sauce is actually really good for you.
Yeah, because of the lycopene, and there's several different antioxidants. I love tomatoes. If you're not sensitive to nightshades, tomatoes can be a really good thing. And
then beet greens and spinach are good for your liver.
Yeah, they've got some beet powder out there on the internet that's incredibly expensive. It's effective, but you pay a lot for it. You can grow your own beets.
And coffee is good for you as well in the form of an enema. Which, really?
I had a lady tell me she was having trouble with the keto diet, and I love the keto diet. And she said, and I was telling her the answers, and I said, well, do this and do this and do this. And I said, at least if you're not going to do an entire coffee enema, get the little enema bulb and make sure the coffee's organic, because otherwise the coffee's full of pesticides. And put about 8 ounces up rectally. Of course, you want it body temperature, not piping hot. Don't put sugar and milk in it. And I said that will detox your liver, because caffeine will stimulate your liver to dump the bile and stimulate peristalsis. And she just told me, she said, well, that's not going to happen. And she failed. She didn't really get any results because she didn't follow instructions. And it's like, folks, sometimes you have to do a little bit of what you don't want to do, and sometimes you have to change bad habits. You can't keep the same bad habits and expect to get different results. So the coffee enema really is a good thing. And
I also want to make sure we address the question from Fran.
She's a sweet lady.
Yes, she is. She, because this kind of goes along with our show, too. She said, "Hello, Dr. Lewis. Could you please explain why meds that doctors prescribe for acid reflux and GERD are not so good for us? Would this be true even if one has early esophageal erosion? And thank you for your insight on this matter." So could you tell us why we're getting prescribed acid reflux and GERD drugs and why they're not good for us?
Well, and as I told Fran, I don't interfere with medical care. I'm a chiropractor, and I'm real good at natural medicine and nerves and structure and function. But the esophageal, that can be a really complicated thing. And even my sweet mother said, "But when I take this drug, I get so much relief." And I said, "Well, for goodness sake, take the drug. But you have to take digestive enzymes. Most people have too little acid, not too much. And, it can be either way. But you have to take the digestive enzymes, because if you don't, what happens is you don't break down your protein. And the protein is where these amino acids come from that are absolutely imperative in proper liver function and proper detoxification. So most people have impaired digestion anyway. Then you don't get B12, B6.
Yeah, they were ready to commit your mother to a nursing home way before she went in one because of those acid reducers.
Well, that's true. One of my sisters called me and says, we've got some problems with Mama. She's just, urinating, with, she can't hold it. She's constipated. She's looking in the mirror, talking to strangers. She's making coffee with no water. She's turning on the stove, but not getting the gas stove lit. And I said, "Oh, Lord," I was loaded up with patients. I said, "Okay," I canceled everybody and went up there, and then they just put her on some new acid reducers so she wasn't having any B12. So I gave the research to her medical doctor and said, "Would you please give my mother a weekly B12 shot?" And again, I prefaced this with research. And the MD was not willing to do it, so we put Mother on a very incredibly high dose of B12. And folks, you have to go very, very high because you're not going to have the proper absorption, so you have to have more available so the body can absorb. Within, I don't know, how long did it take? Mama, her mind came back.
Yeah, she stayed in her home for like another 3 or 4 years after that because her mind was back again. So it wasn't about her mind being gone. It was about being blocked from B12 from the acid reducers. Yeah,
that's
very interesting.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and sometimes it's an overgrowth of H. pylori, and we've got things. Anyway, if we can throw things in there that your body can take and get most things well. But if you have that problem, I'm not saying to do or not do the drugs, but just make sure you're doing things in addition to that. And we can help things, like the different probiotics and the proper ratio of calcium and magnesium and potassium and the right types. The digestive enzymes, and I'm still talking about heartburn or GERD. We can do that. Aloe vera juice, we have one that we think is the best there is for the money. Deglycerized licorice works real well. Drinking more water, drinking cabbage juice, believe it or not, works real well. Cabbage should be eaten a lot more than it is, and celery juice, things like that, raw vegetables. But don't ignore it. I mean, it's a good thing to see your gastroenterologist for that.
Yeah, there is a liver detox drink that you can do where you dilute cranberry juice with a ratio of 3 parts water to 1 part cranberry juice and add a 1/4 teaspoon each of nutmeg and ginger and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon into a tea infuser and let steep in simmering water for 20 minutes.
I could do without the nutmeg. The rest of the stuff tastes great.
Yeah, I like cinnamon.
It's not about taste, though. Oops, sorry.
You allow to cool to room temperature, and then add the juice of 3 oranges and 3 lemons and stir. And I have newt. No, just kidding. Sorry. If the mixture is too tart, sweeten with your favorite all-natural sweetener and sip throughout the day. And that is a very low-cost way for you to start making your liver a little bit healthier and happier. So see, we do talk about other things other than just products. There's something there you can go drink and sip on and have a little cocktail for yourself to start cleaning up a little bit.
And that's one of the reasons we use fresh limes in our drinks, and usually Perrier water, more so than Coke. When we do have an alcoholic drink, we try to make it a much healthier one with the lime and Perrier.
We hope you've learned something today about cleaning up your liver. So while you're in your diet and doing all the right things with eating, make sure that you think about your liver, because that is a very important organ that needs to be helped all the time as well.
It'll make you young, rich, and good looking, so just do it. You'll feel fine.
And if you have questions or things that you would like us to discuss on the next show, please feel free to shoot us an email or write on Dr. Lewis's Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis Facebook page, where you find all kind of information and you can add in on the conversation as well. We hope you have a very blessed week, and we'll be here next time to educate you some more. Have a very blessed week.